In the last video I dropped my Class 50 on the floor and destroyed the motor bogie. In this video I'm going to try and fix it and then finish the DCC conversion. How hard can that be? Okay, so when I dropped my Class 50 I did a whole bunch of damage to it, a lot more than I realised at first. So what happened is it landed end on, impacting here on the buffer. This coupler was slightly deformed, but I managed to fix that. But it pushed the entire bogie into the chassis in this direction, and as a consequence, it snapped off this pin here on this piece that goes in the this top hole. Actually snapped it clean off. Now I've miraculously managed to super glue it back on. I think that's okay, but obviously that's a weak point. I've got another one here. This one's obviously hasn't been damaged and goes on this end. If that sort of snaps off again because the gluing's no good, then obviously I'll have to get a replacement part. Or what I did consider doing actually was drilling it out and putting something else in to act as the pin. The other problem is this. This is the propeller shaft, which mechanically links the flywheel here to the motor bogie. And I don't know if you can see on the video, but it has two knobbly bits either side, and one of those has snapped off where it was pushed into the flywheel. So I've ordered a replacement part here. It's been delivered, so I can pull this out now. There we go. So that's the damaged part, and here I've got some replacements. I got these from Farish and Spares, which is a website that sells spare parts for Graham Farish, rather obviously. And I should just be able to shove this in if I orientate it correctly. There you go, click. And that's got two knobbly bits on either side, so hopefully we're back in business. The other bits of damage that were done, these pickups here were slightly deformed where it had been shoved sideways. There and there, but I've sort of pressed them back into shape and hopefully they'll be okay. So hopefully that's all the damage repaired. I've just got to try and put it back together again now. I'm a bit annoyed because obviously where I carefully taped and insulated some of these areas, I've had to take that all apart in order to get the chassis apart in order to repair everything. But I'll try and put it back together again now. So another thing I've done to sort of improve my situation, one of these screws, I managed to sort of strip the thread out. So I don't want to do that again. So in fact, what I've done is I've put it in this piece of wood. I mean, it's just the end of my track here. I put it in this piece of wood and just filed a slot in there, so I can now turn it using a flathead screwdriver. So I'm not going to end up in trouble with that. Okay, so I think there's not much else to do apart from to just try and put it all back together. This is always a bit tricky. So I put the power bogie in, or the motor bogie, or whatever it's called, and this is the piece that I super glued the doubly bit back on the top. Hopefully the tape will just keep that in place for now. And I'll do the same on the other side. I've got some more bits of tape somewhere if I need them. So again, put the propeller shaft, or whatever it's called, drive shaft. In there. And this piece goes on the top. Okay, and then this little piece here that just holds the bottom of the chassis apart. There we go. Now I should just be able to pop this on the top. The only complication is I've got a wire going through it now. I think that's okay. I'm just going to put one screw in just to hold it together. So I can put the other screw in there. The reason this is in a piece of wood is that was a way of holding the screw still while I filed the slot in it. Now the one thing I forgot to do was to attach the black and the red wires to the screws, but that's okay. We can just back them out and redo that. The thing that's really hard is just to get the assembly sorted out. Now it's sort of back together. We've got a bit more space and time. Let me take these bits of tape off. I had to say that using the tape certainly makes it an awful lot easier. Right. So we're sort of back to where we were, but we're not, because that pin is snapped off again. So the idea of gluing that hasn't worked. Okay, so taking it back apart, you can see the problem. You see this piece here, and that's got a doubly bit on the top. There you go. It's got this piece here, and that obviously anchors, it goes in this hole and provides the pivot for the thing at the top of the bogie tower. This one, its piece has come off. I've tried super gluing it back on, and that's obviously not worked. And I think my only option now is to drill that out and then stick something through that's going to be equivalent. Now I've got a pin vise, so I can drill it. I'd have thought probably a piece of metal going through there somehow. I'm not quite sure how I'll secure it on the top. I think what I need to do is to know, first of all, what the width is. And luckily I've got some calipers here. So I think 1.3 is probably about what you need. Get a good measurement off this. 1.5 is the hole. So I need to find something that's stiff, isn't going to snap off, and is between 1.3, well, a little bit less than 1.5 millimeters across. I'm thinking maybe a screw of some sort. Right, I've come up with a couple of options. First is this. This is just a long, thin screw out of an old laptop that I've sort of ripped to bits, and that is 1.9 millimeters across, and it doesn't quite fit in the hole. Now I could drill the hole out, make it a little bit wider, but I'm hesitant to do that because I don't really want to damage this piece anymore. The other option I've got is this. It's just a piece of wire. It's a piece of black 07 solid core cable, and that fits quite nicely in there. It's 1 millimeter across, so it's got a little bit of a wobble to it. I'm going to give that a go first. I think what I'll do, I will drill this out with a 1 millimeter hole, and then I'll stick this in and try and glue this in and see if I can fix it that way. I'll just tape this down. Screws will be good. Then I'll go and get my pin vise. So it's very annoying having to do this. I'm a bit worried about it. I really don't want to be doing it, but I think by drilling this, I'm not losing anything, because at this point, this is no use to me. I've tried gluing it and that doesn't work. So by drilling it, I'm not, I mean, the other option is to get a replacement part, and I'm not sure where I can get one from. I have looked. So I will just try and drill this out. So I'll start with a fine hole first, and then I'll make it bigger later. I don't think this should be too difficult, because it's just a piece of plastic. See if I can get a pilot hole made, and then I can open it up to the full 1 millimeter eventually. It's gone through in just the right place, so that's a good start. I'll try a bigger drill bit now. So that's a hole drilled. That's good. Okay, we can see I've managed to drill the hole, and I believe I should be able to, there we go, feed a piece of wire through. So I'm going to super glue that in place, and then I can trim it off the top, or trim it off this side, and then get the depth right, and that will hopefully work. Okay, so I've glued this piece of wire in, and I think actually this looks quite good. It's not pulling in and out, obviously, that I hope the glue would hold it, but it's about whether it's got shear strength, and I think we're going to be all right. So the next thing is how long does it need to be? At what point do I need to cut it off? And I think if I use my calipers to measure the other one, that's 2.25. So I can sort of see where it is. I think what I'll do is I'll just cut it off and then measure it, see if I need to cut it any shorter. So I think that's probably too long, but that's fine. I can take a bit more off. That's 3.25. So just take just a little bit more. There we go, 2.3. That'll do. if we compare it to the other one, let me try and set that up for you. It's about the same, I'd say. Okay, so having created or repaired that this holding piece, I'm going to have one more attempt at putting it all back together again. So. So I've done a bit of work off camera, and I've just soldered on a couple of leads for the loudspeakers. So now I'm going to tape the whole thing up. I've had to slow down and set the camera up properly, otherwise I'm going to get too much done and not film anything. So I just want to show where I'm up to. Here's the DCC chip. I'll just take that out. Just giving that a fit. So you can see I've put tape along the whole length of the top of the chassis. Now I've used a bit of tape to secure the mounting board, and that's really nice. This tape's great. It's really sticky. It's insulating, and I expect I'll put a link to it where I got it from in the description down below. And some of these wires are a little bit too long, the ones going to the motor and the black thing, but never mind, I'll sort of take them down. I'm sure that'll be fine. And the red one, I've put a new longer red wire on so I could route it nicely, and then it goes there, so that's good. And I've taped the whole thing down, so this is looking great. It's just a couple more, well, one more thing to do really. I mean, firstly, obviously I just need to make sure I can get the lid on, so that'll be one thing, and the next is I just need to solder the speaker onto these two wires. The colour of my wires is non-standard, so don't copy my colours. You could look up what the colours are supposed to be, but I don't have all the right colours in order to do it properly. But for me, blue and green are going to go to my loudspeaker. So this is the speaker. I believe I've got to solder onto these two tabs here. They're a bit springy, so I think the idea is you could sort of have two conductors and just sort of somehow have it pressed down onto them. I think that's the idea of how this is supposed to work. But I suppose I'm going to have to just solder onto them. I just want to see if I can get it to make a sound. Really, that'll be the first thing. I have done some testing driving around, and it does work on the DC test track, and I've also put it on the layout with this decoder, and it also drives as well. Sort of giving the game away there, really, aren't I? Anyway, never mind. Let me fit the speaker, and then we'll see if we can get it to make a sound. Okay, so here's the loco with the speaker attached, wired in. That's also just flopping around, but I will put this on the track, and then we'll power it up and see if we can get it to make any noises. There we go. So if I power up the track, let's power it up. Now if I select the loco, now this is a sound decoder from a steam locomotive, so obviously this isn't going to be right for a diesel, but we'll see what happens. We turn the sound on. Oh, what about that? It's making some noise. Oh, that's really exciting. So all I've got to do now is get a sound chip for a Class 50, and it should be making sort of diesel noises rather than steam noises. Let's see if I get to go. There we go. It's coming back. Right, well I will try and get that properly mounted. Next thing is to see if I can get the lid back on. Okay, we're back on the workbench. So I just need to attach the speaker. I think I'll just tape it over about there. I'm not sure whether taping it over the top, whether that's a good thing. Or actually I think what I might do is use some black tack, because I've got some. I've never used it before. Here we go. This stuff's called black tack. It's like blue tack, but it's black. And apparently it secures things just a bit more. It's still sort of not permanent. It's still movable, but it's a lot sort of stronger and sort of semi-permanent. And apparently it's very good for securing decoders and speakers. So here we go. Just cut off a tiny amount. I just need a tiny blob. Oh gosh. Right. Yes, certainly pretty sticky. We just stick some on the underneath of the speaker and then bung it on top. So I don't want this to be too large a piece of black tack, because I don't want to use up any unnecessary vertical height, because I need to get the lid back on the loco. There you go. That's quite good actually. It's sort of is movable, but it's not going to unnecessarily fall off. I've got a bit of slack here on my on the wires. Now what I'm going to do is just make sure any bundles of wire need to go in the middle, because I've got these sort of ridges over the go about there and there in the roof of this. So I think it's going to go that way around. No, that way around. So it's got to see where the ridges are. So I think what I'll do is I'll just tape these wires down either side to get it in the middle. So these grooves at the tabs slide down. I've got tape over them, and that's obviously going to stop the tabs from sliding. Okay, let's try again. Let's put the decoder back in, otherwise it's not going to make any noise or do anything. So this is great. So when I get a new decoder, and just plug it in, it's going to be no drama whatsoever. Like, I think I could probably use a bit of black tack just to hold it in place as well. Oh, there we go. Right, so it slid down. Is it going to click? Oh dear, I think it is actually. Oh no, it's not going to click. Okay. Now there's a good reason it's not going to click, and it's probably because this ridge here is sort of going across about there where there's several wires. So I think what I'm going to have to do is to remove some of that ridge. I'm going to use this tool. This is a something I I got this for free. Someone gave it away as a Dremel-like tool. And I said I'd like to have it, and they said, "Yeah, you have to understand it's not a Dremel." Anyway, it's battery powered. It's got a sort of little bit there. I've just put one on that looks like it might eat away at some plastic. And there you go, and it buzzes round. So I'll give this a go. I also need to be careful not to completely wreck my loco. And I'm gonna. Trouble is, I'm trying to do this so you can see on the camera, and that's maybe not the best way to do it. But there we go. Right, another test fit. Let's see. So nearly there with this. There and not there. Okay, I've had a bit of a fiddle around, and I think I've just managed to get this on. I'm a little bit unsure whether it's perfect. Maybe that's not quite clipped on one side. Anyway, we're very nearly there. Oh no, that's not quite right, is it? It's wobbling from one side to the other. But it's not pulling off easily, so we're pretty much there. Right, let me go and give it a go on the track, see what happens. So here we go. I've put the lid back on, put it back on the layout. Now, before I put the lid back on, I actually put in a different sound decoder. This is a decoder that's got the sounds of a Class 50. So hopefully it will both sound right as well as look right. There's nothing left to do now apart from to give it a go. So, first thing, start up the sounds. Okay, so there we go, we got it working in the end. Not without a few dramas though. I think I created a few problems for myself. There's a few other things I want to start working on next. I've got two other locos that I need to do some work on. One needs a conversion to DCC and the other just needs a bit of work to make the conversion work a bit better. But what I really want to get on to working on is to do some more work on the actual layout. The next step is to lay the main line, the next level up, and I'm really looking forward to that. So I hope that you'll join me on the next video.